Hello everyone, I'm Bill Chenard, the Pembroke Town Manager, and welcome to Pembroke In Depth. This month I'm going to actually talk about our upcoming town meeting. Town meeting is scheduled for May 9th at 7 p.m. at the Pembroke High School. I want to encourage all Pembroke registered voters to attend. We have 19 articles on the annual town meeting warrant and 2 articles on the special town meeting warrant. I'm going to dispense with my discussion of the 2 articles on the special town meeting warrant first. They're basically housekeeping articles. The first article is a transfer, and what that does is if accounts for some reason during a fiscal year aren't going to meet their budget requirements under the statute, we have to do a transfer to place money into those accounts. We only have 2. It's for a total of $52,000 this year, which is on a $70+ million budget is a very small number, and I'm encouraged by that because it means that we're budgeting properly and that our department managers and accountants are managing that properly. And the second one on the special town meeting is for the settlement of a collective bargaining agreement with our clerical union. And we'll also see that on the annual. So that pretty much dispenses with the special. We'll move on now to our discussion of the annual town meeting. There are 19 articles, as I said. The first article is the wage and classification plan. This is an article that you see on every annual town meeting. And what the wage and classification plan does is it sets the salaries and the classifications of all non-union and non-contractual employees, of which the town has many. You'll see that in the appendix in the warrant if you want to take a look at that. We're proposing, based on a salary survey, we do a salary survey for various positions every single year. We're proposing a 2.5% increase for fiscal year 24. So moving on to Article 2. Article 2 is also an annual article, but it's our budget article. So it's a pretty large article. At town meeting, we'll be going through every single department budget. Our total ask this year for the budget is $72,633,276. And you can see a breakout of that if you want to take a look at our budget process as we've been through town meeting, been through advisory committee many sessions and the select board many sessions. We've looked at every single line item within that budget. Those 2 committees do a very good job and they are recommending this budget. So next article is Article 3. Article 3 is the water enterprise budget. We have 2 enterprise funds in the town of Pembroke, and enterprise funds operate almost like a business where you have to set your rates and collect enough to cover your costs. It does not rely on a tax base. It relies on fee. It's a fee-based enterprise fund, so to speak. This year we're asking for $2,650,901 for the water enterprise fund. That's a small increase over last year, but we do have some large capital items under Article 5 for the water enterprise, so we think that that's a prudent way to go. Next article is the second enterprise fund, which in the town of Pembroke, Article 4 would be for the solid waste enterprise. That is all of the recycling center operations, the cost for the landfill cap that we did many years ago, but we're still paying debt on that. And then it covers the cost of your curbside pickup for both your recycling and your trash. Recycling and trash pickup and the tipping fees associated with that. Obviously, that's a big number, and that's the lion's share of this budget. In fact, over $2 million of the $2.31 million budget is for the curbside pickup operation. So next item is the capital item. There are several items. I already alluded to 2 of the biggest, and those are a new water tank and maintenance of our existing water tanks. That's $2.5 million of our capital plan, and water system and water main upgrades for $1 million. The other big items are a fire engine and roadway improvements. And I know, based on my feedback from the residents, that roadway improvements is a huge thing that everybody seems to be supporting right now. We did a roadway improvement plan. We presented that at a select board meeting. It is available on our website for anybody to take a look at. And now we're attempting to fund that obligation so that we can maintain our roads and keep our roads up to shape. Article 6 is trust fund transfers. It's an annual item. We're transferring $475,000 to various trust funds from our OPEB obligation, the separation pay benefits, our capital stabilization, our stabilization fund, special injury leave fund, and obviously our workers' comp insurance, both special injury, which is for public safety, police and fire employees, and the workers' comp. We are self-insured. We do have a gap insurance, but we are self-insured where we pay those ongoing costs on a regular basis from that fund. Article 7 is a community preservation allocation article. That is also an annual article where we need to allocate into 4 categories the community preservation funds that are collected by the community. This is a statutory obligation, and if we fail to meet this obligation, we will miss out on the state match, which is huge. We put money into this bucket, but the state puts money via a state match program into this bucket also. So we want to make sure that we meet all of our statutory obligations so that we get that money. Any money that comes into the town from the Commonwealth or any other grant opportunity or the federal government is a huge plus to the community. Next item is the revolving fund limits. So I'll take a minute because a lot of people have asked, well, what is a revolving fund and how does it work? So really quickly, the statute allows us, in the Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, to create a revolving fund. And what a revolving fund is, a revolving fund operates within the general fund, as opposed to the enterprise funds that operate outside of the general fund. And what it allows us to do is it allows us to collect funds for a specific cost and use those funds to support that operation. I'm going to use Town Landing as an example. The Town Landing Beach collects funds from the waterfront operations, mainly from swim lessons, and then they use those funds to support those costs, the costs of maintaining the beach, the costs of paying for the lifeguards. So there are a number of categories under Article 8 in the revolving funds. I would encourage people to take a look at that prior to town meeting. Moving on to Article 9. Article 9 is the one I referred to when I was talking about the special town meeting. It is also to fund the collective bargaining agreement settlement with the clerical union. And the difference is, under the special, we're covering the costs of existing budgets. Under Article 9, in the annual, we're covering the costs of FY24, what the annual is designed to do. It's for fiscal 24, or our next fiscal year that starts July 1st. So we've settled that contract. Both the Select Board and the Advisory Committee have voted favorable action, as they have on most of these articles, to move forward with this. It's a $26,153 cost. Okay, up next is Article 10. Article 10 is an article submitted by the school committee. It regards a study committee for joining the South Shore Vocational Technical Institute. And it was also voted favorably by both the advisory committee and the select board. With me is Superintendent Erin Obey. She is the expert, and I'm going to let her do her thing.
Sure. So we use the word expert loosely. But as Bill was saying, Article 10 is on the warrant in hopes of creating a regional planning committee. So the regional planning committee would take a look at what membership to South Shore VoTech High School would look like. That's located in Hanover. The committee would take a look at some of the finance pieces, the timeline associated with membership, as well as the governance associated with being part of a regional district, as South Shore VoTech is. Once the committee has gathered all of that information, they'd present their findings to the school committee and the select board, and then those two elected bodies would decide what the next steps are moving forward. There's no cost associated with creating the committee. There's also, it's non-binding. So if for some reason, after all the information has been collected, the choice to move forward is up to the select board and the school committee either way, no matter what the outcome is. A couple of people have asked what the makeup of the Regional Planning Committee would look like, so I wanted to just take a minute and go through what it would look like. It would obviously involve a representative from both the school side as well as the town side. The makeup would be myself, the superintendent, our assistant superintendent, the director of student services. The school committee would have a representative on the committee as well. We'd include Pembroke High School Principal Mark Talbot, as well as Pembroke Community Middle School Principal Donna McGarrigle. I think it's important to have both of our secondary educators part of the process, as when we're looking at schools, we want to evaluate the programming that they are offering there to make sure if we're going to be sending kids there in the future that it is equivalent to what we're able to offer on the academic side. In addition, we would obviously invite Bill to join us as the town manager. The state recommends that you also involve a financial person from the town, so either the treasurer or collector or the town accountant. The select board would have a representative on there as well as a parent representative. I think all of those folks together, bringing different perspectives and a different set of eyes to the information would be very helpful as the Regional Planning Committee is gathering information and putting together that for presentation. So why are we looking for this right now? As you can see from the slides that are up, historically, we've had a pretty steady vocational enrollment in Pembroke. It has obviously ebbed and flowed over the past 13 years or so. It generally represents about 2 to 3% of our total enrollment, but in years past, in the most recent years past, coming out of COVID, what we've seen is that about 20 to 25% of our 8th grade students are interested in some sort of vocational opportunity. Up until a few years ago, we were able to meet that need and the demands of our students by sending them to either South Shore Votech or Silver Lake Regional. This past year, as you can see, there has been no students accepted to either Silver Lake or South Shore Votech, which has obviously created an issue for us and for parents in the community, for those students in particular that are interested in a vocational opportunity. We don't have any seats anywhere because we are not part of a regional vocational district. Obviously, as a school district, we're doing everything we can to make hands-on offerings for students at the high school, but again, we're not able to offer a program that is equivalent to a vocational programming at Pembroke High School. So we continue to expand our academic offerings in our pathways that we've talked about at the high school that include biomedical, digital arts, business, and whatnot, but again, not able to offer a full vocational programming. Once the planning committee is formed, see the optimism there, at the town meeting, the committee would spend most of the summer and into the early fall looking at South Shore Votech, meeting with folks over there, gathering information regarding what membership would look like. We would then bring that back to the select board and the school committee in the early fall, at which point they would make the decision to either move forward or not. If they do move forward, I want to be transparent and let folks know that there is some financial pieces associated with joining South Shore Votech that could include the need for a debt exclusion override. So that would potentially be occurring in May of 2024. If all the stars align and we're able to do everything in that sequential order, in the fall of 2024, the other member towns would need to vote in order to accept Pembroke into the region. So Norwell, Hanson, Hanover, Rockland, Abington, there's 8 current member towns in South Shore Votech. 6 of those 8 towns would need to vote in favor of accepting Pembroke. And if that were the case, and we got 6 out of 8 votes to join, we could send students to South Shore Votech as a member community as early as fall of 2025. Clearly, there's a lot of milestones between now and then. If we're not able to make the fall of 2025 timeline, clearly it would be the following fall of 2026.
Super. Thank you, Erin. Appreciate that. One note I just want to make real quick is it is a study committee to give the town residents information about the process. I think that's very important to the entire process. So I would encourage folks to support this, as have our political leadership. So we're going to move on to Article 11 now. Article 11 is to adopt Chapter 140, Section 139 of the General Statutes. What that statute effectively does is for dog licenses. We currently have not adopted that in the town of Pembroke, so anyone over the age of 70 or anyone who has a service dog actually has to pay a dog license fee. We want to exempt them from that. So anyone who has a dog who is over age 70 or has a dog that is a service dog, if we pass this at town meeting, will no longer have to pay licensing fees. Let's face it, folks. Folks over 70, dogs are a major companion, and for those people who need a service dog, it is critical that they have that. So this one is a no-brainer for me. The town should absolutely pass this, but it is up to the voters at town meeting. So Article 12 is amend the zoning bylaws for MBTA communities. It allows for some cluster housing. What it does is the General Court passed a statute and some regulations which require communities that are either an MBTA community with an MBTA station in their community or an MBTA adjacent with a station within a certain radius, which we are in Pembroke. We have 2 stations that we're very close to. What this does is it allows for higher density zoning, so you can put more houses by right in a thing. It's not a major impact. Pembroke was somewhat forward-thinking in that our 2 industrial zones in North Pembroke already had some zoning that allowed for higher density property. So this is a minor change to our zoning bylaws, but it still is a change that the residents should review. Take a look at the recap that's on our website. It really gives a better breakdown than trying to read and understand. There's a lot of legal language in zoning bylaws that can be challenging. I will be the first to tell you it's challenging for me. Take a look. There's a quick 2-page synopsis of what this does. Basically, the town needs to do it or we'll lose certain rights within the state. I know that other communities have said no to it, and the AG's office is taking them to task on that. So next up is Article 13. Article 13 is submitted by the Recycling Committee for a name change. They felt that their name, which was established by town meeting, so it needs to be changed by town meeting, they wanted to expand that a little bit. So that's the first half. It's simply a name change of the committee. The second half is when we passed the Town Manager Act in 2018, it conflicted with the language that town meeting had passed for the Recycling Committee. The charge of the Recycling Committee and the Town Manager Act were in conflict with each other. This article eliminates those conflicts. Next up is Article 14. Article 14 is actually the Community Preservation Act funded article. This year we have one article. It is a request from me through the Community Preservation Committee for $50,000 to add shade structures at Town Landing. When we did the renovations to Town Landing, which we'll be completing this year, the building is complete, but some of the sidewalk and site work will be completed this year. We had to take down some trees and a couple were unsafe and a couple had to be taken down for the property. And that resulted in a lack of shade for visitors and importantly the lifeguards. So we're proposing, we've gotten the pricing, we've got this through CPC. I'm actually going to the Conservation Commission this evening and requesting their permission and make sure they're on board with the plan. So that is Article 14. Article 15 is an annual article where town meeting accepts the town reports. Town reports are a matter of basically a matter of fact. They happen every year. There's certain items that go in from the reports of every department and every board and committee through our budget process and any actions that were taken by town meeting or the voters at the ballot box. So simple one, but certainly required. Article 16 is the annual town election. The annual town election will be Saturday, May 13th. The Saturday after the May 9th town meeting. That is, simply states what that is, and town meeting will vote that. Article 17, I'm going to take a minute and talk about Article 17. Article 17 is for the Public Safety Building Project. The Public Safety and Building Committee has been now working over 18 months to go through this with the architects. They've done a number of presentations to the Select Board. Appeared before the Historic District Commission, done traffic studies, done environmental studies, done a whole bunch of studies on the sites that are proposed. What it does is it proposes to build buildings at the intersection of Washington Street and Barker Street on the land that town meeting purchased several years ago for that purpose, and then another substation on South or Route 27, same road, at the intersection of Monroe Street. What this does is there's some big benefits to this for the residents. A huge majority of the residents' response times will go up. In fact, a huge majority of the town's response time will be under the NFPA standards. We're excited about that. We have sections of South Pembroke and North Pembroke right now where we have large residential bases where the response times exceed 7 minutes. If the town votes to do this, those response times will go under 7 minutes. So take a look. It is a very big number. We recognize that, and the voters need to understand that. But if you look on our website again, under the Public Safety Building Committee, there are a bunch of presentations from the public forums. There's a video with myself and the two chiefs and the deputy chiefs that explains, the need so people can understand that. So, Article 18 is a citizens petition article. It is the town's recall procedures. The town's recall procedures are based on a statute that was passed in 1983. It's the Chapter 356 of the Acts of 1983. And what that does is currently It requires 150 voters to initiate the process. So 150 voters would present the town clerk basically an affidavit letter saying we want to recall a certain individual and give the reason they want to recall a certain elected official. At that point, the town clerk will certify those signatures and give back to them paperwork where they can then go and collect the signatures of 20% of our registered voters. They have 14 days to collect 20% of registered voters under the current statute. And then an election must be held sometime between 25 and 35 days after those signatures are certified. And at that election, 40% of our voters must vote in the election for a recall to be successful. Could it work? Yeah, I suppose. It's probably one of the most stringent recall provisions on the South Shore. And what this article does from the citizens' petition is it changes the 20% to 10% and the 14 days to 30 days, and it deletes the provision for 40% of the voters. We rarely get 40% of the voters at any single election. So both the advisory committee and the select board have voted to move this to town meeting floor and let the voters decide that. I concur with that. I think it is an important item for the voters. I mean, it's almost, although I don't think it is, but it could be considered a conflict of interest if they voted it not support it or to support it. So let's let the residents decide. I think that's the way to go with this one. So, and then finally is Article 19. This is something that the voters haven't seen in Pembroke for some time. We're going to actually rescind some amounts that were voted. When we get a borrowing authorization, we don't always borrow all the money if a bid comes in low, or it's determined that we don't need that money. We don't borrow the money, and it just sits there. This is a bookkeeping. It cleans up the town's books. It's very important to make sure that is the way we go. We're actually going to rescind 2 borrowing authorizations, or a portion of them. $248,266, which is left over from the school roofs. The school roof project is complete. You can't spend the money anywhere else, so you have to, you have to rescind it. And then the second one is for Ludham's Dam project, which we're obviously considering other directions with the Ludham's Dam. This was voted 5 years ago, so it's just sitting there unborrowed. That's $100,000. So let's clean up the books. Let's move stuff around, make sure that our books are clean, and that it isn't just sitting there holding a space with money that is on our books that we don't need, and it will free up additional borrowing capacity. We're not near our borrowing capacity limit, so it's not an issue on that side, but important to clean up the books anyway. So that basically is a wrap-up of the special town meeting and the annual town meeting. I want to encourage everyone to come and visit. If you see this and you have questions for me or anyone else, go ahead and reach out and get the questions to those answers. Get answers to those questions. That was good. I'm happy to talk to anyone about any town meeting article. If you have questions about the South Shore VOC, obviously the superintendent is the expert. I will continue to call her that because she's far more an expert than I am on that. We'd like people to attend May 9th, 7 p.m., and then the annual election May 13th, which is the Saturday following the Tuesday town meeting. So that's a wrap for Pembroke In Depth this month. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you again next month.